Morning Talk with Siki Mgabadeli.
On SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, we're in conversation with the ANC Youth League's Deputy President Ronald Lamula this morning about their Economic Freedom Youth Mass Action scheduled to take place on Thursday and Friday. As you know, the Youth League has called on the oppressed and the exploited to march to the Union Buildings, the Chamber of Mines and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange later this week to demand what rightfully belongs to them. They say this is a clarion call to all economic freedom fighters that total liberation and emancipation of the oppressed and exploited people of South Africa will not only happen in boardrooms and conferences. So the march forms part of the League's calls for the nationalization of mines, the expropriation of land without compensation, the expansion of government services and free education and jobs for all. Critics have slammed the march as political expediency, a waste of time, opportunism and yet another call to push for a factionalist agenda in the alliance. So we'll take your calls as well on 0891104207, SMSs to 34701. After 10, Brian Hirsch is going to join us for an hour today talking personal finance and investment issues. He's going to focus on educating investors on all aspects of financial planning. October is a Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and this morning, in conversation with First Lady Mgabadeli Zuma, who is chairperson of the Forum of African First Ladies and the founder and patron of the Mgabadeli Zuma Foundation, they focus on women's health and non-communicable diseases. So that's the program. Call us 0891104207. Send us an SMS to 34701. Those are charged at R2. You can email us at morning@safm.co.za or go to our Facebook page. That's Morning Talk with Siki.
Morning Talk with Siki Mgabadeli.
On SAFM 1042107, in conversation with the ANC Youth League this morning, talking about their planned march to the Union Buildings, the Chamber of Mines and the JSC later this week to demand what they call rightfully belongs to them. So we'll take your calls as well on 0891104207, SMSs to 34701. Ronald Lamula is the Deputy President of the ANC Youth League. Ronald, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Siki, and to the listeners of SAFM.
I've outlined what this particular march is all about: the nationalization of mines, expropriation of land, government services, jobs for all, what was the other one? Free education. There's a lot of things that are put in there. Is that what you mean by economic freedom?
Yes, it's true, Siki. That's what we mean. We are actualizing what is contained in the Freedom Charter. You will remember what the Freedom Charter says. And when we speak about economic freedom, we are speaking about, in fact, achieving all the economic objectives of the Freedom Charter. So the demands that we have put forward are informed by the Freedom Charter. It's not something new. But also it's a debate that has always been there, the nationalization of mines, expropriation without compensation. But also we're taking further and amplifying what the Youth League has always campaigned for. It's not for the first time we'll be marching to the Chamber of Mines and to the Union Buildings. It will be for the first time we are marching to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The Youth League once marched before under the leadership of Comrade Fikile and Sintle Zigala to the Chamber of Mines and to the Union Buildings to demand youth employment on the basis of the increasing rate of youth unemployment in South Africa. So we have just amplified that campaign and took it further to the attainable of the goals of the Freedom Charter.
What do you want exactly? You march and then what?
Siki, as you will have read in the statement, we have said we must demand what is rightfully belongs to the majority of South Africans. The demographics of the economy must reflect the South Africans' demographics. It must reflect the spirit of the Rainbow Nation. It cannot continue that the economy is concentrated in a few white minority. There must be redistribution of wealth. There must be redistribution of the land. There must be redistribution of the mineral resources. That's what the Youth League is demanding. But also, we believe that at the center of all this redistribution and so forth, it will be youth development and youth employment creation, because it will assist everybody in South Africa to understand the plight of young South Africans. Government has made a policy for the national youth development. There's a national youth development policy that outlined clearly what is expected of government, 30% empowerment for the youth from government and also from the private sector. But what we have seen, we have not seen any tangible efforts by particularly, in fact, the private sector to commit to this youth development policy. And we have seen a lack of commitment. And you can see it through employment equity reports and through many affirmative action reports to the effect that there is no absorption of young people into the economy. But also young people in their majority, even graduates of universities and so forth, are still excluded in a number of professions. The legal profession is still dominated by old white males who gatekeep. The accounting profession is also gatekept. The engineering profession. So almost all the professions, they do not have what we believe will assist young graduates to become future engineers, to become future chartered accountants. The actual profession, you will know, it has a very ridiculous number of black people who are entering into that profession. So these are all combined issues that we believe all people in South Africa, the Chamber of Mines, the business sector, professionals and everybody must understand that every other sector of the economy must reflect the demographic of South Africa, because if it doesn't, it leads to social and economic inequalities.
Now, as the ANC Youth League, you're very powerful. You yourselves say that you're probably the most powerful within the ANC. This is a claim you make. I'm not making it. Now, why not influence policy internally? This is what I'm trying to understand, because you're not raising anything new here. As you've said yourself, you've been talking about these things. We've been talking about these things for 17 years. Why not use your power and influence within the ruling party?
Internal policy discussions within the ANC alone will not change the face of society. Even the nationalization debate, there is an internal debate and so forth. But you will know that even then, the ANC will have to take this debate to society, because the ANC is a leader of society. So we have a responsibility as the Youth League to take society on board on the views that we have, to mobilize society to understand what the Youth League is advocating for, so that by the time when we reach consensus, even within the internal structures of the ANC, all members of society understand the debates, the dynamics, and what we are demanding. It will not assist us to debate amongst ourselves, and we have no impact on what the Chamber of Mines.
A march is not a debate.
Yes, it's not a debate. That's why I'm saying, you are saying we must. Why can't we just have internal discussions? So that's why I'm saying we must take it beyond internal debates to marches, to demands, and to discussions, and to lecturers, and to many other platforms where policy are being discussed. So that's why we have taken this step. It's a step that includes a number of issues, discussions with the Chamber of Mines and many other bodies that are dealing with the issues of youth unemployment. So we can't just leave it at the level where we only discuss within ourselves.
Now, is the demand for economic freedom not a little misplaced? Surely what you want is economic emancipation, you want social justice, and you want economic ability. I don't think anyone or most people do not have economic freedom. I can't wake up tomorrow and decide I want to buy a beachfront apartment whenever I feel like it. So have you not sold these young people a dud saying that you are going to emancipate them on Thursday and Friday?
No, we've never said on Friday we are going to emancipate people. We have said we must march to demand economic freedom, and we have been very realistic that this will happen on the national scale with the consensus and with discussions with all sectors that I have said. So we have never said that after Friday then an announcement will be made that everybody has got economic freedom. But we have said this must happen in our lifetime. This must happen during the time when we are still alive. And it's a demand that we believe is very realistic. It's possible in the land of plenty like South Africa, where there are natural resources abundant in all sectors of the country, where there is a land all over South Africa. We believe economic freedom, it's possible for the youth of South Africa. So it's not something that is far-fetched or an unrealistic demand that we are making. It's a very practical demand that with the willingness of all people concerned from whom this economic freedom we are demanding, it can be practicalized, it can be actualized. We just need political and business will to implement what is clearly defined in the Freedom Charter, but also what is clearly defined in the National Youth Development Policy.
You've said, let's talk about nationalization and talk about land redistribution. Firstly, on nationalization, you said yourself that the ANC, there's an internal debate. We're expecting a report to come out of the NEC. I'm not sure if it's next year, from what they said at the end of next year. And on land redistribution, you talked about the willing buyer, willing seller principle, and you've said that doesn't work and it needs to go. But that's also something that was acknowledged, I think, at the very least since 2004 by former President Thabo Mbeki. So these are things that you are in agreement with. So again, what I want to understand is, how do you practicalize them by marching against them, for them?
As you have said, everybody has acknowledged. I know the Land Summit has acknowledged that the willing buyer, willing seller principle doesn't work, and from then we have been seen a very tangible effort to make it work, because from what we have assessed ourselves and from our belief is that there will be no meaningful property relations change in South Africa without touching Section 25 of the Constitution. You can bring RDP, you can bring GEA, you can bring the new growth path. That will remain a cosmetic exercise. The only thing that will change property relations in this country is to amend Section 25, the property clause. And that's why we have taken it further. We have even made a submission at the NGC or the ANC, and unfortunately did not succeed. We're going to make it again at the National Policy Conference, that there is no policy that we can bring in this country that does not touch Section 25 of the Constitution. The current economic setup will remain the same, and the status quo will remain the same. So the only way for us to change property relations and the structure of the economy that is designed along apartheid lines is through amending Section 25 of the Constitution, and we redistribute the wealth of South Africa in line with what is expected of a developmental state. As you have said, that we have said the willing buyer, willing seller, it does not work. We have just recently resolved in the National Congress of the Youth League, you will remember in June, that we think it should be expropriation without compensation, because we believe the economic fundamentals and many other factors make it impossible for the Department of Rural Development, Agriculture and Land Reform to pay these billions of rands that are being demanded. Government must just be expected to pay the actual cost of whatever might have happened in those areas. So that's what we have said. But with regard to nationalization, we have a responsibility to continue to exert pressure inside the ANC, in society and everywhere, that nationalization, we believe, will assist this country to be able to deal with social problems, free education, the national health and so forth, and provision of other social benefits for the population. Not that only one person receives the profit from mines on behalf of the entire population. So that's why we have said nationalization is the way to go, and we believe we must continue to exert pressure so that this debate does not further away, but it's in fact actualized, made South African policy at the end of the day. So that's why we've put it into the memorandums and into the demand in the March, so that also the Chamber of Mines must come into the party, must be able to see the brighter side of this side of nationalization in South Africa, that will not only an issue that will benefit a majority of South Africans, but also themselves, they will be actual beneficiaries, because they will live in a society where there's equality.
In conversation with Ronald Lamula, who is Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, talking about the upcoming Economic Freedom Youth Mass Action is going to be held on October 27th and 28th, starting at Beyers-Naudé Square in central Johannesburg. They'll move to the Chamber of Mines in Hollard Street in Johannesburg, then to the JSC in Sandton, and all the way to the Union Buildings in Pretoria, where a night vigil is planned. We'll take calls on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207, SMSs to 34701. So let's talk about the march, Ronald. Reports are saying you're expecting 5,000 young people from the mobilization that you have been doing. There are concerns about damage to property. We saw what happened at the start of the disciplinary hearings at Luthuli House, people being pelted with stones. And now we're hearing reports that the ANC Youth League is refusing to pay a deposit, a returnable deposit, in case something like that happens. Why won't you just pay the deposit?
Firstly, the Public Gathering Act says if people want to gather, they must just indemnify the local authority. which we duly complied with. We were in compliance with the Public Gathering Act. We don't understand what is this deposit for. We have never heard of people paying this deposit. So that's why we have said we are in compliance with the law. We have cooperated with the SAPS. We have cooperated with the Johannesburg Metro. We have cooperated with the City of Tshwane Metro. And that's why we agreed to shift the march from the M1, from our intended plan, because of their advices and also within our own internal discussions with them. So we believe this 1 million is not necessary, is not in compliance with the Act. We have made all necessary efforts. We have shown the police that we have got 1,000 marshals who will be marked. We have also got a private security that will monitor the night vigil. So we believe we have complied with a number of things, including EMS, emergency services, and so forth. So we have taken all precautions and all necessary measures to ensure that the march, it's a peaceful demonstration.
And if it's not, will you take responsibility if people's cars are damaged, property is damaged?
We as I have said, that we have taken all necessary precautions. We have made all measures. We have also informed the leadership of the ANC that was concerned about the size of marshals and so forth. But you will know that in many marches, some of the people who come with ill intentions and so forth. We can't take responsibility for people who will do things that we did not say they must do. We have said people must come and march in a disciplined manner. People must come and march in a peaceful demonstration, demand their issues, and that's what we have always said. So we believe that all the marchers that will be coming there will be coming with that good intention. And we have taken the measures to ensure that any other thing which is not what we want does not happen.
Now, this just coming back to the 1 million rand, Metro Police spokesperson Edna Mamunyane is being quoted in The Citizen this morning saying that the League had committed itself to paying the 1 million rand in the event that there were damages to property in the city. Do you deny that?
We have indemnified. When we indemnified, it means the city will not be held liable for any damage that might happen in the case there's such occurrence. So the city is immune from anything that might happen in the march. The Youth League, in terms of the Public Gathering Act, obviously will be the one that will be defending or will be saying whatever might have happened in the march if there is clear evidence that was provoked by us. But for now, we have said to everybody that we are not provoking any immoral behavior, we are not provoking any ill discipline or damage of property. So we have taken all necessary efforts. I don't think there will be a situation where it will arise that we must pay any damages.
Well, pay close attention on Thursday and Friday. I mentioned that there are critics of your march, and it's from whether it's analysts or some in civil society, and they're saying that this is just a ruse for you, your friends, private accumulation, and of course for the battle for 2012. You want to parachute people into positions because politics and government is viewed as a route to accumulation. How do you respond to that?
It's very surprising how some analysts and some people that we are saying have criticized, they view the role of the Youth League. You know, towards Polokwane, they said the Youth League is only interested in leadership and so forth. It doesn't raise issues of young people. We now raise issues of young people. They are saying, no, it's just an issue of parachuting. So it means our role is not clearly defined or is not clearly understood by society. The march is in line with the constitution of the Youth League to rally, and mobilize young South Africans behind the issues of their common concern, and also to rally them on issues that affect them on a day-to-day basis. So the Youth League is just carrying its mandate. We have clear Congress and conference resolutions that we have taken recently in Galaga, which we have just put forward to actualize in the memorandum. So there is nothing else except what we have put forward as the demands of the march. So whoever says any other thing is just a figment of their paranoia, and we can't be held liable for people being paranoid about what the Youth League stands for, because it has always been like that.
But they're finding the timing very curious. The leadership of the ANC Youth League is facing disciplinary hearings. You were quoted as saying that you're going to replace President Zuma with President Motlanthe. So you have to understand where that criticism comes from.
No, it's not. It's not true. Siki. I'm happy that you played the clip of what I said in Kimberley there, and the clip that I played in Kimberley, it was played yesterday. Yeah. So there's no way where I said we're going to replace Mutlante, and also that at least because it was live on air, it's a radio interview. I've said yesterday it was a gross misquotation of what I've said, and you have the clip. You can play it to the listeners. They will hear. I've never said. We are going to replace Zuma with Mutlante, but also
can I read what the clip is supposedly saying? It says, Deputy President Nelson Mandela took over from O.R. Tambo in 1991 as president of the party. Thabo Mbeki took over from Mandela as president in 1999, and in 2007, Zuma took over from Mbeki as president. In 2012, Mutlante will take over from Zuma as president.
It's not true. That. It's an insertion. You know what has been inserted? Yeah. You can play the clip. The listeners will hear.
We'll see if we can find it. I'm just asking.
Yeah, you can play it. But what I've said, it was an O.R. Tambo memorial lecture at Kimberley. It was in the context of O.R. Tambo. I've said O.R. Tambo, like all other deputy president of the ANC, he had the opportunity to become the president of the ANC. Nelson Mandela was a deputy president, he became president, Thabo Mbeki and so forth. And I was quoting President Jacob Zuma when he spoke in the National Congress of SASCO in 2003. So I said, given this history, it's inevitable that one day Kgalema will become the president of the ANC. We don't know when. It will only happen after the ANC has allowed us to discuss when that will happen. But with this history of all deputy presidents become president. So, but this is not the issue here. The issue is about us continuing with the march, and that is the issue of attention. So, you have said that we are facing disciplinary hearings and so forth, and the timing, and you have quoted the critics. What you must understand is that we are not suspended from our responsibilities. We are expected to carry forward Congress resolutions of the Youth League. And that's what we are going to report in the next National Congress of the Youth League as to what were the discussions and what did you do with the resolutions. We are not going to report that we attended a disciplinary hearing, so that's why we could not be able to implement Congress resolutions. But for this issue, we have resolved it in the Congress that there must be an economic freedom march. We've made announcement. I'm sure if you can Google it, you can find it. We've made announcement long before there was speculation or before we were charged that we are going to march on this date, and we are going to make all proper announcements on the 12th of September. And that's what we said, even before anybody was charged. So I'm surprised about this issue of timing, unless people are saying we must stop from doing our duties when we are not suspended. So we have a responsibility to carry forward our mandate. We have a responsibility to continue with the work of the Youth League, for which we were elected to, until we are told otherwise by any other forum that is relevant, that you can no longer continue.
We're going to take calls on 0891104207, 0891104207, SMSs to 34701. Let's read some SMSs. I'll take the calls after headlines. Pops in Kronstadt says, bravo, economic freedom. Let's get back what belongs to the people of Mzansi. Tandy says, what is your guest's definition of economic freedom? Has he heard of economic responsibility? And Peter in Limpopo said, what is the latest on the million deposited in Malema's trust account by unknown mine owners before we nationalize? And another one is that Errol says ANC Youth League policies will lead to civil war. As where in KZN says, where does the ANC Youth League concerning the tender system? So I suppose, where do you stand concerning the tender system? Kenny in Midrand says, Siki, does this mean only millionaires can march? AB in PE says, does the guest realize that the DA is getting stronger and that it will not be possible to change the constitution without a 2/3 majority? And Lindell says, you want developed white land but leave all the land in the black homelands undeveloped. Why not develop farms there? Zuki Sekailija says, the poor will support you only will oppose. Viva Youth League. I'm not a member. And someone says we must first take the farm that Malema bought in Limpopo. And Zweli M. Kondo says, Lamula, if you are voted president of the country, would you implement what you are calling for? And another one says, is it true that the NIA visited some of the ANC Youth League members with regard to March? And there are reports about that. So I'll get a response from you, and we'll take those calls in a moment.
Morning Talk with Siki Mgabadeli.
On SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, in conversation with the Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, Ronald Lamula. Let's take some calls, Ronald. Let's hear from Tiens in Pretoria. Hi, Tiens.
Morning, Siki. This is Tiens speaking. I wanted to ask Ronald, or let me ask Ronald, what are they going to do different to the ZANU-PF government? Because what he's explaining is exactly what ZANU-PF did. But what are they going to do that they don't make the people poorer and actually enrich them?
All right. Thanks, Tiens. We'll deal with that. Is it Conrad Egiani? Hi, Conrad.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Conrad.
I'm fine, thank you. I'm hearing the conversation here. Something that I wanted to check. I wanted to Lamula to explain to me in terms of we don't hear you guys touching the issue of labor broadcast. I just wanted to take it because it's very serious. So I don't want to be politically, but I really want to understand what's going to happen in terms of labor broadcast, because the whole country is suffering. And this issue has been taken a longer time ago. COSAT, they've discussed the issue and withdraw. I don't know what's going on. So I really need clarity.
Okay. Thanks, Conrad. Is it Mluleki in the Eastern Cape?
Hello, Siki. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Hi, Ronald. How are you, Chief?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yes, Comrade Ronald, it's just few issues, man. I want to start to say you can fool some, but you can't fool all of us. The march by Youth League comrades, I think, is just a cosmetic exercise. I believe that in a power of persuasion, the president of the country has been adopted a program of job creation for young people in the country. And I want to check the issues here, Comrade Ronald. What alternative does the ANC put in place in this current South African setting? Because we've got a Procurement Policy Framework Act as well as Supply Chain Management Act. All these acts promote individualism. Then you speak of an economic emancipation. Don't fool us, because in a South African country, South Africa is a capitalist country, then distribution of wealth is impossible. I think we must begin to tell us, comrades, that if you go on the street, instead of engaging the government, which you've got a freeway, because in order to amend this Section 25 of the Constitution on property clause, you don't need to go to the street, you need to engage. I think, comrades, it's disingenuous for the Youth League to go on the street instead of engaging on these issues. The last issue is about this issue of what is the actual objective of this march? Because in my view, I think it's about undermining the government of the African National Congress and the African National Congress itself. Because nothing is convincing me that proves that it's about for the workers and the poor.
Right.
Instead, it's about individualism. Thanks, commentary.
Thank you. Siache in Spraidvu. Hi, Siache.
Ziggy, good morning to you, and also revolutionary greetings to the Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, and thanks for the good show. I think on a lighter note, I was told that I must not come and speak about the succession debate. But then be as it may. One thing maybe one wants to raise, and also to commend the Youth League for taking up this issue on raising this issue with this campaign, is about raising awareness amongst over 10 million people that have voted for the African National Congress. Remember, as we stand now, we stand at 930,000 members of the ANC that knows about these processes, about economic freedom, nationalization that have been discussed within the structures of the African National Congress. So by the Youth League taking this thing up and marching, it has been done on several occasions. Even the trade unions are doing the same thing, Siki, when it comes to making the community broadly allowed to understand issues that they want people to understand. Right. Secondly, is the issue that we want also to emphasize, as a member of the trade union, we some of these issues that the Youth League is raising, it touches on us, most when it comes to job security, labor brokers, and all this. And the other thing that maybe worries me too much, these issues have been resolved by the Congress of the Youth League in Midrand. Why now they want to make these issues as if it's the issue of the top 6 of the ANC, or more specifically the issues of Julius Malema? Lastly, Siki, I think it's important that when we discuss this issue, let not this issue be made as if it's an issue to show that Youth League, with the power that they have, that they can change it. It's not all about that. It's about issues that affect us as the poor of the poorest, not the issue of Julius Malema. Thank you very much.
Which union are you part of?
I'm a member of the South African Municipal Workers Union in Ikuruleni.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to check because you mentioned labor. That's Yaha Tabang and Musimani and Fundila. I'll come to you in a moment. Let's just deal with the questions raised so far. Ronald Tiens wants to know, what are you going to do differently from ZANU-PF?
You will understand, Siki. We have never encouraged what has happened in Zimbabwe. We have said we agreed with the end product, but we don't agree with the means which ZANU-PF has used. And that's why I have said we believe there must be an amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. We believe there must be an expropriation without compensation bill to show that we want to do it within the parameters of the law. And we that's what we have said. So in Zimbabwe, it was not done within that parameters. So that's what is different with us. And we believe that if we do it within the rule of law, investors will still have confidence because they will see that South Africans are committed to the rule of law. They are committed to due processes being followed when we are expropriating, which in fact should happen in this country. Even the Constitution allows expropriation, but it doesn't allow it without compensation. So that's why we say it must be without compensation, and that's why we are saying it must be done through the parameters of the law. On the issue of labor brokers, we have been very clear. We have said the labor brokers must be banned as defined by the ANC manifesto towards the current national elections, which put the president of the country into office. So we think that it must just stick to the manifesto and ban labor brokers. On the issue of the procurement policies and so forth, we like any other organization, we believe that there is a national youth development policy that speaks about 30% youth empowerment through. We believe that it must be done through cooperatives, which will assist unemployed young people to group themselves in communities and so forth. And that will generate a noble social cause of young people. It will not be individualism. We have never said young people must be looking for tenders and so forth. We have said through cooperatives and other means of entrepreneurship that young people can be able to group themselves, a group of unemployed affected by a number of issues, to reduce community issues, identify problems in their communities and so forth. That's what we have said. In terms of the objective of the march, I think SAMU has explained this very well. The comrade we called, who is a member of SAMU, he clearly understands the objectives of the march. They are genuine issues. I'm really surprised. I've said we have met the leadership of the ANC yesterday, the officials. They have said the issues you are raising are genuine. What we are worried about is that we must ensure that the march become peaceful. It is within the parameters of the law, which we have complied with. It's surprising that people who are not there in the leadership, they feel this. It's an undermination of the leadership when the ANC itself does not see this undermination, and they don't see it as a war against the ANC. They are just saying, comrades, you must ensure that whatever you do, it's within the parameters of the law, which we have complied with. So there is nothing wrong. We are raising our demands. We are putting forward what we believe in, and these are the policies of the Youth League. There is no agenda at all.
Is it true, as the SMS was asking, that the NIA visited some of your members?
Yes, it's true. It happened in various provinces in the northwest, in Limpopo, and other parts of the country. They visited them to understand whether they attended the last national disciplinary hearing, but also whether they will be attending the march. But also, bus owners, some of them have been intimidated and so forth, that they must not partake and carry people or ferry people to the march and so forth. We have raised this also with the leadership of the ANC, our concern, and they have committed that they are going to take it further.
And what would you expect them to do?
Obviously, it will be that those who are in the intelligence operatives and so forth must stick to their mandate, which they are given in terms of the law, to do their job, what they are expected to do, and leave what is outside their mandate. That's what we expect to happen.
There's another SMS that asked if you were voted president of the country, would you implement what you're calling for?
Yes, immediately. There will be no delay. In fact, the first...
But there are processes to get an act into place.
It will happen. There will be no delay. We will be calling for people to do it in the process that is due and so forth with the parliament and so forth, which will be practically possible. In our view, it's not something that is far-fetched. But we believe that also with the current leadership of the ANC, which is carrying with the current leadership of the ANC, some of the things that we have raised will actually find expression in the next National Policy Conference of the ANC. It will also find expression in the next National Congress of the ANC. But also it will find expression in all sectors of society, in boardrooms where decisions are taken and so forth. So the caller who said that we have abandoned negotiations and a march will not change Section 25 of the Constitution, I think he has put a very misplaced and ill-informed argument, because we have never abandoned negotiations. We are still engaging with everybody that is relevant, but the march is to put pressure and actualize, in fact, to expedite this economic freedom, because we want to see it happening within our lifetime. It has happened before. During the apartheid negotiations and so forth, we still had marches, we still had people putting pressure on government to be negotiating. While people were negotiating in Codexa, the people were still marching and making demands. So there's nothing new that the Youth League has brought today. We are just doing what we've always been doing.
Let's read some SMSs, then we'll take the calls. Someone says, how will the Khoisan, the indigenous South Africans, benefit from the mines and land? Nothing is said about them. Another one says, is the ANC Youth League trying to get whites to start engaging on these issues, or do they just want to grab land and wealth? Another one says, how can the ANC Youth League march for 2 days after wasting millions on balloons and unnecessary fanfare last year? Why didn't they initiate job-creating projects? And another one is a TK who says, please tell your guest that when his president was busy amassing wealth and not caring about the youth, the Freedom Charter was already there and the youth was unemployed. Joe in Maritzburg says, we fully support the March for Economic Freedom as long as there is no sinister juvenile delinquency agenda. And Ngozi Pete Timde in Johannesburg says, as a young unemployed South African, I support the march. Our government failed dismally to create decent jobs. And Barry says, please give your guests a CV. I would like to understand from where he sources any authority on any matter. And Spiwa in KZN says, why Mutlande, while we all know too well that Mutlande is a permanent fence sitter, he's one person who will never take a decision that may hurt investments. Elliot in Witbank says, okay, now that was for the forum at 8, but let me read it anyway. Okay, I've lost it. Oh, there we go. He says, are we South Africans so inane and ingratiating that we praise our officials for doing what they are paid to do? And that was for the forum at 8. We'll deal with that in a moment. Tabang and Alex, morning.
You?
Hi, Tabang.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. I'm Tabang from Alex. The message I want to portray is that the march is long overdue. And as young people, we are willing and ready to mobilize for the march. And then we'll be very much disciplined, but at the same time, we'll be very radical and unapologetic for whatever we're going to do. Because we've suffered a lot as young people in this country. And in the position of the ANC Youth League, it is the mandate given to them by the masses who gathered in their conference. But then again, we like to say to all the people who will be participating in the march, to say that will be a message to delegates who must amend and change the policy of the ANC with regard to nationalization, that they must vote for nationalization and go with nationalization, because this, we feel, it's a very central issue of young people, because I believe the future belongs to all young people within this country. And then it is us, the young people, who are going to suffer in the long run if then changes are not being made in the current leadership. But I'm very happy of the courage that the leadership of the Youth League has got, especially from the president and his leadership and his deputy, Comrade Lamula there. But saying we are behind you, comrades, and we are not apologetic for what we stand for. We've suffered enough as young people. We're living in areas that are disgusting on a daily basis. people are living in areas that are very conducive aircon conditions every time. But in Alex, we are very suffering.
So you're going to be marching, Tabang?
Yes, I'll be marching. I'll join in the march.
Okay. All right.
Saturday.
Thanks, Tabang. Musimane in Mafikeng, morning.
Good morning, Siki. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Good morning, Comrade Lamula. How are you?
Morning, thanks.
Sure. Look, two issues that I think must be raised here. The Youth League is raising quite an important debate in our society, and I think people must not criticize the Youth League on the basis that the Youth League is factional and so on, because we are going to 2012 and all of that. And I need to clarify, Comrade Lamula, the current leadership of the Youth League as it stands now, it was not my preferred leadership. But I support the call made, and the Congress said and made resolutions that leadership must actually run and implement those resolutions, because it is the basis upon which we are going to either re-elect or denounce that leadership in the future as the members of the Youth League. So it is quite opportunistic for other people to say, because there's elections next year of the ANC, the Youth League is being opportunistic. Quite a number of issues that the Youth League is raising are issues that are affecting young people, and we feel the pinch on the ground. And I think we must encourage you, comrades, even including us who did not prefer you to lead, to continue implementing resolutions of the Congress. And I think that's the point I want to make.
All right. Thanks, Musimane and Mafikeng. I'll take maybe one or two more calls, and then we'll wrap up. And lots of SMSs to read as well. Kulani in Mpumalanga says, Comrade Lamula, we will come to the march. We will be disciplined, and no amount of vilification will defocus us. And someone says, Siki, ANC Youth League have scary sense of entitlement. Will they squander if they get it all, as they did the 60 million from the lotto? And another one says, Ronald, in my opinion, Youth League and Malema have one thing on their minds: anarchy. Remember, Gaddafi, bin Laden, live by the gun, die by the gun. And Yogi in Cape Town says, Siki, ANC Youth League is a law unto themselves, and they believe that they have the right to dictate ANC policy. They threaten to remove leaders that don't conform. And another one says, expropriating other people's property is the road to economic ruin. Ask Brian Hirsch. Emma says, ANC Youth League, how many jobs have you created with the contributions you receive? I lived in Zambia. They nationalized the mines, which totally ruined our economy. Kenny Mutai says ANC Youth League is 100% correct. We want what's due to us. Pudaza says, who mandated the league to march? Steve in Cape Town says, if willing buyer, willing seller cannot work, you think land grab is the way to go. And Tandine Bramfisher says, Viva Youth League, Viva. Paul says, the laws of physics tell us that black people do not belong in South Africa. The attitude, so the land is not rightfully theirs. Okay, I don't understand that. Neil says, are you going to pull learners out of the examination rooms for this march? And Joe in Ranfontein says, black people of South Africa should decide whether they want to remain as slaves for the rest of their lives or change the economic legacy of apartheid. So that is from Joe in Ranfontein. We'll read more, and then I'll give Ronald a chance to respond.
Morning Talk with Siki Mgabadeli.
My guest, Ronald Lamula, Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, here on SAFM 104 to 107. Let's take one more call, Ronald, and then we'll wrap up our conversation. Muzise in Johannesburg, morning.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
I'm okay. Thank you very much for taking my call. Two issues very quickly. I think it's very problematic for the city of Tshwane to demand 1 million from the Youth League. Because if the Youth League had that money, they would not march. But as a member of the DA, I want to call all members of the DA to join the Youth League march. It's necessary. There are issues that form part of our public operation in life. So I wish to call all our members to join the Youth League march, because these are genuine issues that they are raising, and these are the issues that they are affecting us as young people in this country. I think those are the two issues. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mrs. They're short and sweet. All right, lots to deal with, and lots to deal with from the SMSs as well. So the one SMS was asking if you're going to disrupt students, drag them out of classes. We certainly don't want that while they're writing exams.
The Youth League is a very responsible organization, Siki. We wherever we went to, in communities and everywhere. You will have also quoted the president of the Youth League. We never said people must drag learners out of their classes. Learners must continue to write their examination. In fact, we wish them well as they continue with their examinations. We have said it's a march for unemployed youth, it's a march for landless and so forth. So we believe those who will be outside of employment will be the majority of those who will be partaking in the march, and those who might be employed will have taken leave and so forth will be part of the march. Even when you address the vets and every other areas, we have said institutions and students of higher learning, they must continue their examination. Those whom their timetable permits, when they deem it fit, they can join us. That's what we have said. And we are a very responsible organization. I'm surprised some of the SMSs are saying we're a law into ourselves. The Youth League held a congress here in Midrand, which was very peaceful, 5,000 people in attendance. The Youth League had a lot of marches previously and before, which were very peaceful. What happened, which we have said was unfortunate, in the Beasno Day in Johannesburg, you will remember it was not what we have called for as ourselves, as the leadership. The provinces came to support us, and they said they will do it in a disciplined manner, but unfortunate incidents happen. And these incidents, which are unfortunate, do not only happen in an isolated manner, only in the Youth League. They happen in Kosatu, they happen in Samu, they happen. We saw soldiers jumping on top of the Union building, doctors removing drips from ICU and so forth. We have never encouraged those things as the Youth League. We have always encouraged our members to be disciplined. We have encouraged our members to do things in a dignified manner. And we believe this is what is going to happen. And this is what we have always encouraged. So the Youth League, it's a very disciplined organization that sticks to very good values and morals. And this is what we stick to. And this is what we encourage. One isolated incident cannot cast aspersions and doubts on what the Youth League stands for. So we believe this is an organization of disciplined members.
Let's just deal with who's behind you here. I mean, we had the caller who's with SAMU, but there's been some confusion about whether or not COSATU is going to march. They've said that they wanted to first engage with you to see what exactly the march is about, and that it isn't, as Joe and Marisburg was saying, that there's no sinister juvenile delinquency agenda. So who supports
there's
you?
No sinister juvenile delinquency. We have attempted to have meetings with the leadership of COSATU. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But COSATU issued a statement in support of the march, and they have called their members to come to the march. We were just surprised only yesterday when they condemned, particularly myself, for having called for the deputy president to become president, which things I did not say. And I was hoping that you are going to play the clip so that also COSATU can hear that I did not say those things. But I've been condemned. But it's not an issue that I'm worried about, because I believe that with time, with COSATU, we are going to find each other, because we are pursuing and believing in the same things. So majority of their members, they've said they are supporting the march. We believe they will be part of the march. There's no sinister agenda. The march is for economic freedom in our lifetime, Siki. And we are encouraged by some of the listeners who have given us confidence, who have given us courage. It's not an easy route. It's very difficult. But with that courage, we will continue to soldier on.
So we'll watch then, and please keep people under control. We don't need so. We don't need so. We don't need so. We don't need so. We don't need so.